So if you are not familiar with Amanda Bynes, so she was a child actress. She was in She's the Man, and some other movies. And around the same time that Britney Spears was put into a conservatorship, Amanda Bynes also was put into a conservatorship. So there's a lot of people that are talking about some parallels between her situation and Britney Spears' situation, which obviously Britney's now out of her conservatorship. But Amanda Bynes seems to be a little bit of a different case than Britney Spears, because we're not there. Let me put it this way: there always is a possibility that someone can be abused through something like a court proceeding, like a conservatorship. Um, but at the same time, it seems like this is a little bit of a different situation. So anyhow, let me pull up an article to talk about this. So Amanda Bynes files to end a conservatorship after nearly 9 years. So there were court documents that were filed last Wednesday to end her conservatorship, which was, I guess it's been going on for about 9 years. It hasn't had a lot of publicity, but I guess now it will be starting to. And maybe they are following the lead from Britney Spears' situation, or maybe this is just the timing is such that they figure that this is the right time for them to end the conservatorship. So, hey, Andy the Game Maker, thank you. Good morning, good evening. I hope you're having a good Friday. Thanks for the super chat. So for everyone that is listening in podcast form, obviously I'm live streaming this on YouTube, but if you're listening to it later on podcast form, I have pulled up an article from Page 6 called "Amanda Bynes Files to End Conservatorship After Nearly 9 Years." So apparently she's been in this conservatorship for about 9 years, and it has been it was started where she was put under her mom's conservatorship. Basically, her mom became her conservator, and the reason for it is because I guess she has, number one, she has a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, which on its own, I will say, is not enough to put somebody under a conservatorship. There obviously have to be other factors showing that with that diagnosis, they also are not able to either take care of themselves, or that they pose some kind of a danger to themselves or to other people. And it seems like in this particular case, she was hospitalized a number of times on an involuntary psychiatric hold. And one of them was for allegedly starting a small fire in a stranger's driveway. So, when we talk about Britney Spears, we talk about the big public meltdown that she had. She had a number of psychiatric holds herself, but the big public meltdown that she had was, she shaved her head, and she drove with her child in the driver's seat on her lap. That was the extent of it, which, not saying that that's not dangerous, not saying that that is not child endangerment. That very well could be, but it's not the same thing as starting a fire on someone else's property. So, and it does say allegedly. I don't know if it was proven that she actually did start a fire on her neighbor's driveway, or tried to. But yeah, if that is the case, and that is a situation that does look a little bit more serious than Britney Spears' situation. So, anyhow, she also had, on top of this, she also had drugs that were in the mix. So bipolar disorder, on the one hand, can be tricky enough to manage on its own, even with proper medication. But anything, drugs and alcohol, from what I understand, from people that I know that have been either living with bipolar disorder or have been I guess supporting people that have been living with bipolar disorder, or trying to support people that have been living with bipolar disorder. Any kind of like small shock to their equilibrium can oftentimes um end up sending someone into either a very high or a very low. So that kind of stuff can happen. So as soon as you have that kind of a diagnosis and you also have drugs in the mix, you have a situation where somebody can really actually be putting themselves into situations where they are a danger to themselves and or to others, and where they may or may not be able to actually take care of themselves. So, however, back in November 2018, she said that she had been sober for 4 years, but then she later had a stress-related relapse, apparently. So Amanda has had achievements along the way too. So since then, she's graduated from the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising in Los Angeles. So that's, that's fine. That's good. Good for her. And obviously that does show that she is able to put herself towards graduating, like graduating a program. She's able to complete a program. That usually is a pretty good sign in terms of somebody that is taking care of themselves, and that is able to sort of function normally in society. Kurt, have you heard anything about this situation, about the Amanda Bynes conservatorship situation?
No, what is this bullshit?
So so I was talking about this earlier when before you came on, but I was kind of going through an article that was talking
Oh, it's
about
another thing about family law. Yay. Let's talk about this
Not
conservatorship.
family law. It's a conservatorship, which it often does involve families, but
Well, it's often part of the family law
yeah.
universe. May
Well,
you.
yeah, sure. I mean, but there's a lot of overlaps between these various areas of law.
Okay, all right.
So, but typically this falls under elder law, or wills and trusts. But because this
All
is
right.
usually in
Elder law.
probate court.
Elder law, fine. We'll call it elder
Yeah.
law so we
But
all feel better about
another
ourselves.
unique situation because it's obviously not someone who is anywhere near elderly, because we're talking about a young woman who is I think in her 30s. So she's got bipolar disorder. She also was doing drugs for a while. She, tried to light her neighbor's driveway on fire, and so she was placed under a conservatorship 9 years ago. Her lawyer now has filed a petition to end the conservatorship. So I don't know if there's been any responses to it as of yet. I don't think that there have been, but they said that she's been doing very well besides some anxiety and trauma, and that her conservatorship could be terminated when it was no longer convenient. I don't know if this is truly a Britney Spears situation, meaning where the conservator is very controlling and wants to keep it in place at all costs, or if her mom really actually has her best interests at heart. But it does feel like a slightly different situation than Britney Spears. At least I'm hopeful anyway. But so and I know that there are a lot of people on the internet that have some very strong opinions about conservatorships. They want all of them to end because of the Britney Spears situation, because that arguably was an abusive situation and she did not need to be under a conservatorship. It lasted way too long in that case, where it may have started in a situation that was a proper situation for a conservatorship based on, what was going on in her life at the time that all of that started. Obviously over the years, it seemed like she got everything together and things were humming along otherwise, and she was totally able to learn to take care of her stuff herself. So anyway, but in this situation, it looks like they were actively trying to manage several different things, and to include bipolar disorder and to include a drug addiction, and those two mixed together are not exactly the best things for a person. And oftentimes when you find people that are homeless living on the streets, oftentimes they will have something like bipolar disorder that has, just completely gone off the deep end, possibly because of a mix with drug and alcohol abuse.
Yeah,
So
I think the gender inequality in homelessness needs to stop. There's too many men who are homeless and not enough women. We need to bring equality to this field.
I don't
I
know where
do.
that's coming from.
No, I think it was an ad in the New York Times, or was something equivalent to that, once, where they had an ad that said like 1 out of 5 people who are homeless are women, and it's like, what about the other 4 out of 5 though? It's like, well, 1 out of 5 is women. Feel bad.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah. No.
I don't know nothing about the situation. I was very late to the party in terms of like condemning the whole Britney Spears conservatorship, and I think probably for the best, because again, not my field of law. If we want
Yeah.
to call it family law or we want to call it elder law, it's very difficult for me to make a decision, and so I was very late to the party in terms of when that first started to pop, and I think you and I think other people in the sort of law tube sphere made a decision, and especially Emily, I think, but she was following a lot more closely. So I'm not saying she was
Yeah.
wrong, and just
Yeah.
commenting about timelines.
Yeah.
That she was willing to say this was wrong, and I was like, I don't know, I'm
I
a lot more a resident, and so I, again, for similar reasons, I don't know enough to render an opinion as to whether or not this is good, bad, ugly, or something in between.
Yeah, so I was also relatively late to come to a very hard decision on Britney Spears as well. I mean, definitely way later than Emily D. Baker. Um, but and the reason for that was because there was kind of this gap of information about what her medical file looked like. Like we didn't know if she actually is struggling with something that does affect her in her day-to-day life, because that's kind of important for an analysis of a situation like this, right? Like it's is somebody able to take care of themselves? Is somebody able to pay their bills? Is somebody able to, and when I say that, I don't mean like if somebody is, disorganized or something. Like it's not that. It's like literally they will forget for months on end, and they will forget to pay their bills for months on end, to the extent that they get kicked out of their apartment because and everything shuts down, all of their services shut down, their utilities, you know what I mean, like that level of forgetfulness, which does exist because of conditions like Alzheimer's, for example. Will somebody simply forget to eat for days on end? Does somebody need someone to come in and make sure that they eat every day? It's situations kind of like that. Are they physically able to take care of themselves, or are they essentially almost a vegetable? Like things like that. So and if somebody has a mental health issue that really severely impacts that, and they are struggling with drug addiction, for example, on top of that, that is pretty relevant to that kind of an analysis. So that's why I was a little bit slower myself on the Britney Spears issue, you know and there really weren't too many ways to get information, because the conservatorship was so tight-lipped on that kind of information, which is one of the dangers of a conservatorship. If you don't have a court-appointed attorney that is actually, doing their job and really advocating for their client, and really doing a strong analysis on a regular basis as to whether or not their person should be under a conservatorship.